Okay, looks like you're good. All right, let me share this quickly. Oh, no, no, this. So this colors that fall in this section would call cool colors, and colors that fall in this section would call warm colors. Yes, Gideon, I'm recording the class now. Yeah. So this article, I think it goes deeper into the reason why some colors can be considered uh, cool and warm, and why some colors look different from others. And it deals with the wavelength. So if you're interested in the science, you can take a closer look at why that is. Right. So colors from here would call cool colors, and colors from here would call warm colors. Right. So let's go back to our. All right. Also, we'll take a look at, before we go to color psychology, we'll take a look at color combinations. And here there's a diagram here for complementary, analogous, and triadic color combination. So on research, people have found that when you pair certain colors together, they go very well. And they've created structures that you can use by yourself to come up with these different combinations on your own. And this first one we called complementary colors. Complementary colors essentially are colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. So here, yellow and purple goes together because they are opposite each other on this color wheel. And if you want probably to use this color, you can look at the opposite color here and pick that as your complementary color. So you can go all around here. So let's sample these colors and experiment with.
In other words, sorry.
Yeah.
In other words, let's say you are designing.
Yeah.
What you're trying to say is, let's say you are using the best color to use. If let's say you are using yellow,
Yeah.
the next color that would place it inside the design that you use would be purple.
Yes, so it's an option for you to select from. It's not necessarily a rule that you can use. So there are different color combinations that that work. But if you say you want to go by complementary colors, then you can do that. Right. Then you take this. Right. So you see it looks nice on its own, right? Because they are complementary colors. We take another look at an example here. Another example, like let's say this green, its complementary color would be the red on top. Yeah, let's sample it properly. Right. The saturation is terrible. You can see something like this. The contrast is not very great, but in applications, it should look nice. So here we would call this complementary colors. Let's pick another one. Let's say this orange. This blue. Also complementary colors. All right. Then we have the analogous colors. And these are colors that are next to each other on a color wheel. Next to each other or closer to each other on a color wheel. Right. So we can have these three colors next to each other, or these three colors next to each other, these three colors next to each other. And this one necessarily don't have good contrast, right? The contrast between them is not very great. So probably when you're using them, you can introduce like white or black for good contrast or something else to give it proper contrast. But for background elements and other things, we can use analogous color combination. And then there's triadic. Triadic is colors that are 120 degrees away from each other. So when you draw a line here, for example, on a color wheel, 120 degrees away from 120 degrees away from that, we would call this triadic. We call this triadic color combination. Right. So we can shorten this a bit. Shorten this a bit. Shorten this a bit. So the angle between this and this is 120, 120, 120. Right. I think one of them is more than one. It's less than 120, but still. So if you draw a triangle on your color wheel, the points that they fall on, we can call the triadic colors or triadic color combination. And then we look at yeah.
So when is it best to use that? Like the way you explained for the elements, this is complement space rather
All right. So these ones triadic. I don't think there's a specific application you can use them for, but when you test them out, you will know if they are good for your design. So let's test the triadic and see how it looks like. Let's test it with this selection. Let's introduce a subtext. We can reduce the font size here. And call this subtext. Can put this here. Let me see if I can find some design somewhere to add. Okay, I don't have any design yet. Alright, let's take let's put something here to give us balance. But So let's change this to the background. Yes, let's keep it yellow. This is not proper yellow. Let's keep it something like this, nice and bright. And then we pick blue for this. Let's give it some saturation. Copy this. And then for this, we can go for something like the red. It was something like the red. White is terrible. Alright, we can go for something like this. And delete this. This makes sense, right? This color combination, what does it remind you of? Which Ghanaian brand has this color scheme? MTN. Okay, old MTN. You can say this looks like old MTN. But MTN currently, I think their colors now are black and yellow and blue sometimes. But there's a specific brand in Ghana that has a color scheme like this. Anyone cares to uh,
Blue band.
Blue Band, yes,
Yeah.
Blue Band has this color scheme. Any other else? Any other brand? Onga. Onga. Onga also has this color scheme. So you find brands using this color combinations as well, right? So when you want a different color, you can just spin this triangle a bit. So when you spin this one becomes this one becomes this, and this one becomes this. When you select them, you get good combinations as well. Then we have the rectangular, which is essentially drawing a rectangle in your design, tetradic. So these ones, they are Jifa. Do you have a question?
Yes. So do you necessarily have to use all of the in the triad? Do you necessarily have to use all of the colors it points to?
Yes, yes. So if you are choosing to use triadic, you have to use all of them. But then how to use them, we'll look at that as well, right? So you understand more on the applications of your colors as well, right? So we have rectangular here, which is essentially a rectangle on your color wheel. Tetradic, which is square. Each one too is has its specific number of colors that you can choose from. Then we have the analogous, which you looked at, colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Then we have analogous complementary. So analogous complementary is like this, but then you extend this line to where it meets the opposite. So to pick an analogous complementary, you can say this and this are complementary, and then you pick either this and this or this and this. So you can choose green, magenta, red, and orange, or you can choose red, green, and this blue, right? Then you have your analogous complementary. And then split complementary is you do your complementary, regular complementary, but then you ignore this and then you go for the ones to the side. It's almost like the opposite of this design where you pick the other side and the two colors next to it. But this one, you pick the other side, but then you ignore the colors, the direct opposite, and pick the colors next to it. So let me show you colors that are in use in this format. So these color combinations happen in nature. They are not just, there's a reason why when you see something, you say that, oh, this thing looks nice because the color combination makes sense, right? This couch we have in the office here, we can say this is, let's look at the color wheel. What would we say it looks like? What combination it looks like? We see white, we see brown, and we see yellow. So where would that fall? Okay, let's say brown and yellow. We can say that uh, it's analogous. We can say it's analogous. Why? Because the yellow and the brown would be close to each other on the color wheel, right? The brown is almost like the yellow, but it's a desaturated. Uh, it's a, it has a higher value, right? That means there's more black in the brown than in the yellow that we have there. So we call this analogous combination. So let's take a look at Pinterest and then we look at color combinations in nature. So nature is the best reference for picking color combinations, and photographers and those who take a lot of pictures are very aware of that. They are very particular about their color combinations. Let me bring that here for you guys as well. So let's look at color combinations in nature. Right. So you take a look at this image right here, and then you find all these colors inside this image. But then you see that some of them are more prominent, like the green. The greens are more prominent than probably the pinks and the red and the yellow. You would see why that is. Right. You take a look at another um, nature. This one too, yellow and green, which is yellow and green, yellow and green, yellow and green, complementary. No, analogous, because yellow and green is close to each other. So analogous, right? So call is an analogous yellow and green and blue, yellow and green and blue, yellow and green and blue. Brilliant. So yellow, green and blue, analogous color combination. So we can call this color scheme analogous because they are close to each other on the color wheel, right? Same here, a design like this, very good color combination. It looks very nice. You see this, you see that it's very, very attractive, right? Orange, green, and blue. Orange, green, and blue. Let's see what orange, green, and blue is. Orange, green, and blue. Orange, green, and blue. So we can say that it's probably analogous complementary because you have probably we can say this one, 1, 2, 3 green, matching this. Okay, we can say 1, 2, 3 with this orange here. So you can call this analogous complementary. Or we can just shift this here and then we get analogous complementary. Yeah. So the best color inspiration you would ever have is from real life pictures. When you see something nice, you can always, like this one for example, you can always pick the colors and use in your design. This one for example, let me copy it into Figma. We take a look at that more deeply. Take another one. So we sample all these colors. And then let me bring the orange. Let's bring this. This desaturated. Alright, let's pick it like that. Then we bring it here. And also there's one color combination. I think there are different color combinations, but there's one important one that was not mentioned here, which is monochromatic. Monochromatic is when you have just one color, but then you are using different shades of that same color, different tones of the same color in your design, right? So we look at monochromatic. Monochromatic. This is an example. This is a painting. Yes, this is an example for monochromatic. Even though it's the same green here, there's different shades of green in the image, right? That's another example. Okay, let me remove. Monochromatic is not very common in nature. It's common in paintings. Yes, like this, very monochromatic, but the image is distinctive, right? So this would call monochromatic. And this one, you are using values and saturation. So this one is dark, this is light, this is less saturated with the highlight, the white here, right? So designs like this, we call them monochromatic. And also in color theory, white is considered as no color and black is considered as all the colors mixed together. All right, so you have to make that distinction. White is considered as the absence of color and black is considered as the presence of all the colors combined. So we have various examples of monochromatic combinations. Right. So let's move on from here. Let's go back to Figma. All right. So we'll come back to this. We'll look at color psychology or psychology of color, which is the concept that color communicates before words do. Work through the common associations, remind intents, the context, all right, can shift these meanings. All right, so um, each color has a specific tone and emotion associated with them, not because they are inherent, but because that's how society has been designed, right? For example, red, you would associate red with energy, urgency, passion, and danger, right? That's in our society, Ghanaian society. But different countries have different associations with color. China, for example, associates red with fertility, new growth, and their new year, right? But we don't associate red with that. White, I think in some Asian countries are used for funerals, but in certain African countries, the opposite, right? So these meanings are not static, they are contextual and mostly culturally contextual. So depending on where you find yourself, the meaning of the color would be different. So this goes back to the design thinking process that we spoke about. Understanding your audience and the context you are designing for. If red means something in your context, it doesn't mean it means the same thing in the user's context. So you have to be mindful of that as well. Right. So these are some of the common associations widely associated with some of these colors. We have orange, warm, creativity, friendliness, usually used in tech, food, and youthful brands. Yellow, optimism, attention, caution, retail. You see a lot of supermarkets use yellow, warnings, and children brands. Green, nature, health, growth, money, wellness, finance, stability. Blue, trust, calm, professionalism, luxury, creativity, mystery for purple. Black, elegance, power, sophistication. For luxury brands, fashion brands, and editorials, you see a lot of black. White, you see clarity, cleanliness, simplicity, mostly used in healthcare and minimalistic brands. Pink, femininity, innocence, sweet, female brands, dessert, packaging, and what have you. So these colors, like I mentioned before, are contextual, right? They are contextual. And also when you're using them too, you have to note that using black and probably purple would have a different meaning than using black and probably red, right? Using red and green would be different than would give a different vibe than if you're using probably red and orange, right? So the color that you have or the colors, the overall colors in your design would give different meaning. Tifa, do you have a question?
Yes. So if you mix the colors, does it combine the associations?
So
Like maybe
yes,
using white and pink.
yes, it does. It does.
Oh, I think you got something.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does combine uh, the common associations with them. Yeah, but there might be cases where that could be different. Um, but usually, yes, I would say it does. So we'll look at surrounding colors, proportion, background. These three things affect how the color reads, right? So we have the 60, and this is supposed to be 60. All right, this 30. All right, this 30. So the 60, 30, 10 rule, which is 60% of one color should be dominant, 30% of your secondary color should have prominence in your image, then 10% as your accent. Let's change this to probably some type of red. Bad contrast. Let's give it something that would stand out. Yeah, something like this. Perfect. All right. Yes. 10% accent, which is demonstrated with this little design here. So this blue is 60% of the image. This yellow is 30%, and this purple here or magenta is 10%. And we can see that same thing repeating itself here as well. So here we can say that 60% is a yellow, 30% is the pink or the reds here, and then the 10% is probably the white here and the blue. So the blue and the white can share the 10% here. Here we can see that the blue here is 60%. The blue is 60%. This one is very tricky. The blue is 60%. The yellow too is a lot. But comparing, I would say the yellow will take 60%, the blue 30, and the peach color here 10%. But this one is more it seems to be more balanced than the 60-30-10 rule. So we can probably exclude this as an example of that. Here we can see that the sky, the green is 60, the blue is 30, and the orange is 10%. So they are not necessarily proportioned exactly like the 60-30-10, but we can say this is a good example of that. And this is not like a hard fast rule that you have to follow all the time, right? But for correct representation of color in your design, you can use the same percentage of all the colors. In all the flyer examples you guys shared, we can see that rule being followed. White is 60, yellow is 30, and the black is 10. Even though the other colors, we can probably ignore those ones. Here too, we can see the white is 60, the blue is 30, and the red is 10. Here we can see that the brown is 60, the white is 30, and probably the blacks are 10. In this one, we can see the yellow 60, black 30, white 10. Right. So in almost all the designs you guys share, this one is just two colors. Here we can see the yellow tones. The green tones are more, so you can see the greens are 60, the yellow tones are 30, and the white combined with the white is 10, because there's more white here. And you can see similar for this, similar for this, similar for this. So for good designs, you notice that this rule works very effectively in the designs. All right. In this one, this green is very, so we say the orange here is 60, the yellow and the purple is competing for 30, and the green and the white seem to be the 10. All right. So this one looks a little off because the green is out of place here. There's a lot of purple here. We can see the yellow here, yellow here, but the green is just standing out on its own. All right. Probably the subtle greens here, but it's not enough to counter this green. It's too saturated as well. So yeah, so you can follow this rule if you have any doubt. All right. And I also introduce you to an online tool that helps you make proper color combinations. And the name of the tool is Coolest. So if you need color inspiration, you can visit that tool. Let me, okay, Coolest. We'll visit it right now. So it's a color palette generator that gives you options of colors to select from. So it randomly gives you colors. So you can see, oh, I like this color. These two colors are very good. So we can lock it. Then we experiment. So it's a very good tool for experimenting with colors as well. You can see.
Please, can it also help you identify a color?
I don't think so. I don't think it can. There are different tools that can.
So maybe you've seen a design that you want the color, but you are able to like find it on the color wheel, like the exact
So the best thing
color.
for you to do in that case is to bring it to a program like Figma or Affinity or Adobe Photoshop or whatever program you use. So let's say this image like this, and we want this yellow. We can probably come here. So there's a tool in almost every design software called the color picker or the eyedrop tool in Photoshop. Here it's called sample color tool. So you just click it and then it hovers over your design and then it helps you sample your color. Right. So we'll take a look at Figma and then we'll explore all these tools to see how you can use them in selecting your colors. Right. So that's how you do that.
But let's give some things as I take.
Yeah. So it doesn't give it doesn't give you everything. It selects the specific point where you choose. So this one there's different colors inside, that's why it looks textured, right? But you can also create this texture effect if you want. Alright. Williams.
What is the extension?
Okay. Yes. Let me close this. Oh, so those I'm very sorry, those on the call weren't able to see my demonstration on Figma. Please pardon me. Let me show
I was
you.
thinking of,
Yeah.
but there's an airdrop to be happening.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll go to that shortly. Yeah. Let me just show those who are joining online what I was talking about. So Jifa, I was demonstrating in Figma that if you want to pick a color, there's this tool called sample color here, where it can easily help you pick a color from an image. So this image, we just took them from Pinterest, and then we can easily sample them out and use in our design, right? So any color you want, probably I like the very light pink here. I can pick it out. Or I can say I like the dark one. I can pick it out, right? So that's what I was talking about. So if I hope you get now.
Yes, I do. Thank
All
you.
right. Awesome. Let's go back to. So Williams was asking what this is. So this is an extension called Colorzilla that I use to pick colors from websites. So if probably I come across a design on this website and I like it, I can just use this extension to sample the color from it, and then I come to Figma and then I paste it, and I get the same color, right? So it's an extension called Colorzilla. You can probably check out if you are interested. So any color on the website, I can pick them out. Right. All right. So where were we? Let's go back to Figma. All right. So that's that for getting color inspiration and sampling colors. So, okay, let me show you something else too. So in an image like this, I think the designer sampled this brown from her dress or her face. That's why it still matches, right? So in a design where you have an image that you're using, you can quickly sample colors directly from the image and use in your design. I think an example I showed you guys was when I was doing this rework of this. You remember I sampled this purple from the image, right? Just to make it more cohesive. So we can also replicate that with every other design. You see this one has pink and yellow, and you can see the pinks and the blues in their shirts. So it all matches, especially this gradient here. She's matching this uh, navy blue here, and this pink here as well, running through the design, right? So in cases where you have an image in your design, you can sample the colors from your image and then use in your design as well. Then we'll take a look at color accessibility. And color accessibility is the practice of designing and organizing digital physical content to ensure it is distinguishable and usable for people with various visual disabilities, including color blindness, low vision, and low vision. All right. So there are people who have blindness to certain colors. There's red color blindness, there's green color blindness. There are official names for them, and we'd see how they look. Let's go back to this page, and then we look at what color blindness looks like. Yeah. So this is what a normal person would see. This type of colors would be visible to a normal person with normal vision, right? Yeah, but someone with green color blindness, known as I don't know how to pronounce that. This is the type of colors they would be seeing. Someone with red color blindness, this is the colors they be seeing. Someone with blue color blindness, this is what they see. And someone with this color blindness, this is what they see. They're able to see only black and gray, black, white, and shades of gray. So, for example, if you use probably black and blue in your design, the person with this is not going to be distinguished, will not be able to distinguish the difference between these colors, right? There's a good, yes. Let me test you guys to see if anyone has color blindness here. What number is here? Can you see the number here?
Yeah.
Wait, let me. I hope no one has color blindness, so please. Let's go back to Figma. It's very odd, but there are some people who don't know that they have this condition, and they find out by accident. So what number is here? 7. Okay. Here. 6. Correct. Here. 26. Here. You're seeing something different. What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm seeing 86.
86. Here. Okay.
And the first one, I mean,
But just consider that the ones that the colors are different.
yeah.
Okay. And here.
That 23 or 70.
Obed. There's nothing here. Hey. Okay. What about you?
I think that I can see that 21.
Okay.
70.
74. And here. 35. All right.
Give me my glasses.
Yeah. Let's hope it's your glasses. Let's hope it's the glasses. Or probably because the place is dark. Yes. So please, if you have trouble seeing some of the numbers, I think you can probably investigate that further. Yes. So this is a universal test that is being used to test your your range of colors that you can see. Each one should be distinct enough to identify the numbers. Please, those online, I hope you guys got the numbers correct. Jafar, Elizabeth, Williams, Sam. When you guys are quiet, I'm
Hi,
concerned.
please, what did you say?
I'm saying if you guys were able to identify the numbers in this image, right?
Yes, yes, I was.
Okay, okay, thank you. All right. So designing for accessibility is basically doing that. So in cases where you have a design and your contrast looks like this, certain people are not going to be able to identify or properly read your design, right? So you have to create enough contrast where the colors are distinguishable. So enough contrast between text and background is not negotiable. Don't rely on color alone to communicate meaning. Consider color blindness. Tools to check contrast, coolest, cool, Adobe, yes. So we can go back to the coolest uh, page. Yeah. And then we look at what they're talking about with creating
So
contrast.
please, if you have color blindness, is that the end of your career?
No, 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 no. There are very good painters and designers who are colorblind, and it's very prominent in what is very noticeable. Some of them are able to design to balance that, but some of them are not able to do that. But I don't think it's the end of your career. You can still pursue creative work even though you have color blindness. So let's say
So do they like do it according to what they see?
yes, yes, there are glasses.
Hello?
There are glasses that correct this. Sammy, Sammy said he discovered Figma earlier this year.
I'm colorblind though.
Samuel, stop saying the nonsense.
Which color blindness do you have?
I think it's red green.
Red, green. Okay.
Uh, uh,
All
so
right.
I've been using it to do this with like a lot of things. And I didn't notice it was this and even color grading of videos. So you don't even notice. You yourself you will not know.
Right.
It won't be of you at all.
Interesting.
Just that when people are fighting over colors, and you say it's green, you say it's red. It's
Right.
red, you say it's green.
I see.
What is that boy doing over there?
He's saying he discovered his color blindness earlier this year.
That's why his color grading is always somewhere.
Uh, doesn't affect that.
That's a good
It's
thing.
really very peculiar. Yes, like the numbers are difficult to read. That becomes difficult to read. Or you're working in a particular shape of
That's
green.
my question, but that's what I think you post the recorded session
On the group.
and you said
I'll probably post it. They are very large, so I don't want to. I'll probably post it on YouTube for you guys to watch. Yeah. Because it's very large. I don't want you guys to. It's about the last one I recorded was about 800 megabytes. It's very very large, just for one session.
I thought I was getting 50 right.
15 gig.
so how do you
I think it's under the moon.
how do you access it on YouTube? What's the page?
I'll check once I upload it. I'll share a link with you guys so you look at. All right. From color blind designers. So, Sammy, you might have a partner here in the studio. So, yes, this is a design from a colorblind artist. It's not a very typical colors you'd see together, but it still looks nice. Right.
Please, I'm not seeing anything.
Hey, sorry. Can you guys see now? Jifra, can you see now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So these are typical
Yes.
designs from colorblind individuals. This one, for example. So yes. So there are some people who see yellow as pink, and they see this color as this color. Right.
So does it not impact their work?
Yeah, it does. It would. It would. But like
It
Williams,
does into
like Williams mentioned, there are glasses that can help you correct that, but it's not always perfect. Right. Some people have learned to adjust to that, and so it works for them. So it depends on the individual and how they work around it. Right. So let's see what Coolest is saying. Color blindness. Let's check. So this is what it looks like. Right. So with this palette, we can test and see what the different color blindness conditions, what these colors looks like for them. So for this color palette, for someone with this color condition, this is the colors they would be seeing. Someone with this is the colors to be seeing. Someone with this is the colors they'll be seeing. Let's change the palette.
Please, I don't know if you've moved, but I'm still on the Pinterest.
Oh, thanks for reminding me. All right, yeah, we are here. So this is what we're talking about. For each different condition, there's different colors that will be perceived. Right. So let's change the palette. Let's change the palettes to something else. Yes, something like this. Let's see what it looks like. Right.
so let me help them so that you understand. If we are born with a particular deficiency, like if you point at black and everybody says black, they see black in a certain way. You will see black in another way.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? It doesn't mean that it is not the black. It is the same black we are looking at. That you will see differently. So when you design, you select the way you see it. The other person who also looking at the design normally will also see it how he sees it. Just that when it's put together like in small dots close to each other, it becomes difficult to read sometimes. But the way you see it will not change, and the way you will name what black is in your head will be different from somebody else seeing black. But to
Exactly.
you, that is black, and it will remain black for the rest of your life.
Right. So that's that. So essentially what this is saying is when you're designing, you have to keep this in your mind, right? That your design should be accessible, at least if not to all the uh, blindness or the color blindness out there. At least it should be able to pass some criteria. And Figma, this is why I like Figma so much. It has this inbuilt system where it gives you this dotted line. So this area that are shaded here for me means if I select any color from here, the contrast is going to be bad and the design will not be very accessible. So here you see it has given it double A ratings, which it says is contrast standard net, right? Let's see what it says. All right. All right. So it's saying the contrast here is good. So for anyone with any any condition should be able to read this. Now once we start bridging this, we see how the contrast begins to fall apart. Contrast begins to fall apart. Not everyone would be able to see this. So if you use this in your design, even though this looks good, some people are not going to be able to see it, especially those who can see just white, green, and blue and black. They wouldn't be able to read this because the contrast is very bad. So we can take another color. We can change this background here to something like this. Let's see what Figma says on this contrast. So Figma says this contrast is good. Let's change the hue. So as you change the hue, you see that the shader is also changing. The shaded aspect is also changing. So each hue has, for each color, has a range of possible areas where you can select with maximum contrast. So if you select red, I want to use red. There's a limited amount of red we can use where the contrast is good. You can push it. As you reach the boundary, you see that it begins to fall apart. It's not very good, right? Perfect contrast. It begins to fall apart. So the highest you can go in this, but still maintaining the contrast is this. Right? So you can go about. Let's change the background to something brighter, like some kind of orange. Yes. And you see the possibilities. So you see now it has flipped. Right. So because the background is bright, we need something darker. So anything here is acceptable. So this is another feature that you can use. This one is very contrasting. Right? Contrast is too much, in fact. So this is another tool we can use to gauge that. All right. Okay. So that covers color theory. So that covers color theory for today. Any questions so far on color theory before we start exploring Figma? Any question, Jafar, Elizabeth, Khan, Obed? You guys are all good. You good? Obed, you good?
I mean, when you were talking about the type of talents, right?
Yeah.
Beginning times, primary, secondary, tertiary.
Mm.
You didn't mention, you did talk about black or white colors. Color white or color black.
Yeah. So yeah.
Later he said the white yellow color and black makes. So that
Yes.
it's not part of any of the categories under primary, secondary.
No. Yeah. White is out. Black is also out. Yeah. When we take a look at the color wheel, For example, here, Figma doesn't have a typical color wheel. It has this uh, slider that we can use. Here we select the hue that we want. Select the hue you want. Here is the value. Going down on any part, here is the value. Okay, going down here is the uh, going across like this is the saturation. Going across like this is the saturation, and going down is the value. Going across saturation, going down is the value. So when we go here, more saturation, we go here, less saturation. We go up, less value, we go down, more value. Yeah, all right. Okay. Jifa, do you have any question?
Um, I have plenty questions, but can I get back to you? Sorry.
Okay, all right. Uh, Elizabeth, do you have any questions?
No, please.
All right. So that means you understood everything I mentioned here.
Not everything really.
Hey, which part do you think was a little confusing, or you want me to clarify?
I think the color accessibility and the blindness aspect. That's where I was finding a bit difficult.
Okay. So the color accessibility is basically making your design accessible, and accessibility is many or increasing the probability of people being able to interact with your design. So there are people with conditions that we call color blindness, and there's different subtypes of color blindness. And with those conditions, it's difficult for them to identify certain colors, or their ideas of how they see some colors is different from how you see um, those same colors. So someone might, with a condition, might see this orange, and to the person it's looking green, right? But to them, they are going to associate this orange with um, green. But for them, let's say I have uh, red green color blindness, right? And I see this as green, but everyone calls this orange. I'm going to call this orange, right? Because to me it's the same thing, right? So to them, colors appear different as they would have appeared to people without the condition. So they associate those colors with, until they're diagnosed, they associate what they see to what people call them. So when you're a child and you look at this color, instinctively, you are not going to say this color is called orange because it's something that's uh, instinct. No, you learned that this color is called orange. Same way people with this condition that are not diagnosed, they would also call certain colors some colors, even though you wouldn't call them the same thing. So someone might see this color and they'll be arguing, like someone mentioned, the person is seeing yellow and you are calling it green, right? So that condition is what we are trying to make sure that our design doesn't obstruct those people from being able to interact with our design. So we are selecting colors that sort of minimizes the possibility of that. And that was what I was demonstrating with this accessibility feature in Figma, that you can be able to determine what colors look good together based on this shaded section, where Figma shows you that choosing a color from this side would be bad, and giving you a possibility to choose from a good palette depending on the background of your uh, of what your text is lying on, right? I hope that's clear now.
Yes, please.
All right. Okay. Jifa, can you talk now? Before we uh, completely jump from colors to something else.
Please, I still can't talk now. Can you give me like 10 minutes? I'm working, I'm doing something
All right.
urgent, sorry.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. I think for now, once okay, so now we'll go to Figma. First of all, I want to show you guys how to install Figma on your computers. So you start to explore the program. Hey, it's already 2. Wow. Okay. All right. So Figma. So if you don't have Figma, you can follow along. Oh, no, 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 no. Um, that's not what I was after. No. Okay. It looks like. All right. So you can go here. Figma downloads. Yes. So Figma is a tool where that allows you to be able to create designs in your browser or on your desktop. And for me, I prefer using the desktop version because it's faster than the web browser. But if you want, you can either use you can create an account and use it in your browser, or you can download desktop app. Alright, so Figma setup.exe. You double click it. Slide is for like a presentation. Alright, like what you do in what's it called? The Microsoft presentation software, what's it called? PowerPoint. PowerPoint. So it's similar to what you do in PowerPoint. You can animate your boards here, blah 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 blah. There's also a feature that is provided in Figma. Right. What's happening? So let's close this. Yeah. Then we have FigJam. FigJam is more like a brainstorming board where You can add multiple people to the board. Probably we are creating a design for something and we want everyone's input on the design. We can come here in FigJam and create blah blah blah. You see, immediately tag my name that I created this. So if anyone else comes in and create something, they would also be tagged with their. So here we have share this board. So this is how we share content or design boards on Figma. Figma has this feature where people can collaborate one design board, unlike Photoshop or uh, Illustrator or any other uh, design software. Figma has this feature where many people can be on the same board and they can edit and work on the same design at the same time, right? Then we have the standard Figma design, which is easily created here with clicking design. Let's delete this board. So we create a design. So once you create a design, this is what it looks like, right? You have the title of the design here. You can change it. So we can call this test design or lesson 1 Figma. All right. So here we have Figma here. We have the title for the design board right here. Then we have pages. So Figma has the feature where you can create pages for different content, right? So here we have, let me open a design that we actively using. So this is what pages look like. Pages is in the same file, you can create a page where you are dedicating that page to a different type of content. So here we can have this page for social media contents. We can have this page for stationery or whatever design we want to do. Currently, there's nothing here. We can create another one. So for free plan, which is what we are currently using, we can create 3 pages for each board. And this is a feature that helps you organize your design properly. It helps in the organization of your design. Right. So let's go back to this quickly. So here you have your recent designs. Let me delete this. You're not going to use it. This as well. Yep. So here we have community, right? And Figma, since it's an online tool or it's a collaborative tool, it has a feature where people can publish their designs on an online platform that Figma calls Figma Community. And on Figma Community, you can find thousands of designs here. You can choose from as inspiration or as a base for your design, right? And since Figma is mostly used as uh, a UI tool or UI building tool, uh, Oh my God, this is very disorienting. But since it's very UI based, you are not going to find a lot of graphic design resources here, but you can find some good ones. Social media templates, you should find some that people have already done that you can pick from and edit and share, right? So if you want to experiment with designs, you can visit this page and take a look at what people have done. So let's say we want to pick design, for example. We click it, we can look around in the design, we see what it looks like. If you're happy with it, then we use templates, right? We can also save it for later. We can like it and we can leave comments. So there's someone's work that they've shared on Figma that we can use, right? So that's what community is about. And then here we have teams. So teams is more like since Figma is a collaborative tool that you can have people working on multiple or the same design at the same time. Figma has created this feature called teams where you can create your own team and you add people from different accounts on one single team. So, for example, let's select ADC 2025. So this is a team I created, and this is the designs that that team is able to um, access, right? And for each team that you create, you can create drafts, and drafts are not accessible to team members. If you want team members to be able to access your uh, draft designs, then you can move them to move file, and then you move it to whatever team you want to share it with. Then there's resource or resources. There's nothing here. These are templates that you've created for the team to be able to use, and deleted files. We have them here, right? So that's an overview for this page. So Figma, once you create a design board, this is what it gives you. Right? So go through this section, we'll go through what this section is about, and we'll go through what this section is about. So here you have the menu, the main menu here, file, if you want to create a new design, place image or video into your design, save a local copy. So all the designs you are creating here is saved online. It's not saved on a computer directly. So to be able to access it, you have to be connected to the internet, right? So if you want to save a local copy on your computer, probably this design I'm doing, I want to be able to access it even though I don't have internet. I can save a local copy. Then this is export, export frames to PDF, create branch, edit. So these are all options. We'll see how we would use them later on. Right. Then this specific file menu, show version history. So as you iterate the designs, it saves specific sessions of your design. So let's say today I create something and tomorrow I delete it. Next week I want the previous design that I create. You can come to show version history and it will show you the previous design that you've done and probably want to revert back to that original design, you use version history. We'll look at these ones later as well. Then for layers, you have the objects in your design, would call them layers, right? So I just created this rectangle, and you can see it's shown here, rectangle 1. And this symbol here means changing the visibility, what I want to see it or not. The padlock is to lock the layer, so we can't move it or touch it or select it. Once we unlock it, we can move it around as we please, right? So that's that for this part. Then this part is the properties menu. And what the properties menu does is it gives you editable features of the select object that you have. So let's say right now I've not selected anything, right? Let me unselect this, right? This property menu here is giving me properties of the entire design board. So here I can change the background color, right, of the design board. Probably I want dark, I want black, or I want red. But it's advisable not to change this, right? You can leave it as it is because it's a neutral color and it gives you contrast to your design, right? You can change the background versions like I spoke of, styles we look at later, and export we also look at later. And prototyping, also UI related, we'll also look at that later. Then this is the size of the design. You want to zoom, we do that here. I want to zoom out, zoom to fit, can do that all here. But we really don't need to come here to be able to change the zooming and the sizes and all those things. We don't have to be here to be able to do that. We can easily use shortcuts to do that. So one shortcut you would need to know is how to use the scroll button. Zoom in and zoom out. If you have a mouse, an external mouse, you can use the wheel on it to increase the zoom of the page, whether zooming in or zooming out, right? But if you are using a trackpad, you can use the pinching feature to zoom out, and you can use the expanding gesture to zoom in, like you would on your phone, right? Uh, okay. So, like I said, this part is the property menu, and once you select an object, it gives you things you can change about that particular object. So here we have a rectangle, and here it's given us the name of the object we've selected. So rectangle. The position on the page, we can tweak it. So this position here is alignment. So let's say we have two different objects in our scene. and we want to align these two edges together. You can use this alignment settings. You can align to the left, you can align to the right, you can align to the center, you can align to the top. Let's change this color so it's distinct. We can align center, we can align down. So this is for alignment purposes, right? Then go back here, and this is to determine the position on the page. So when you change this, you see that it changes on the x-axis. X-axis is the horizontal position, y-axis is the vertical position, right? Then we have rotation here. Let's put this 0 degrees. So this button here would rotate it by 90 degrees. Right. This and this we'll look at later. And this is to determine the size of the object that you have, whether you want it to be, you want to increase the width of it, you want to increase the height of it. We do all that here. You don't necessarily have to be here to be able to do that. You can also come here and change directly. Come here and change directly, or change it directly here, right? Then we have appearance. The appearance here is the opacity of the object, how much visibility the object has. So we can give it 100 visibility or 100% visibility, which we see here. Everything is visible. Or we can give it like 50%, 30%, of which it becomes less visible, right? Then we have the corner radius. We'll also look at that later. Then we have the fill. The fill is the color of the object, the color of the object in the scene. So we have orange, whatever color we want, we can select that here. And here we have solid. What I'm currently in is what you call the solid color version. There's also gradient, where if you need a gradation of one color to another, you can easily do that here. You can easily change that here quickly, however you want. You can easily do that right here. Right. There's also pattern. This one is an advanced feature. We look at that later. Gideon is asking. Gideon is asking, how can I get a custom size in PX? So in Figma, everything is in PX, and PX means pixels. Right? We'll see why PX means pixels. So Gideon is asking, how can I change the size? So all these numbers here and the Y and X are in pixels. Right. So Gideon, if you want to change your pixel specifically, you can come here, probably 1080 by 1080. You can directly type in your desired pixel size here and it will be adjusted for you. All right. So we have that here. Then we have the image fill here. So image fill is when you want to fill your shape or whatever object you're selecting with an image. So here you select image fill here, and then you choose the image that you want. Let's say I choose this. It fills the design. Right. I can fit, I can crop, I can also tile. Right. These are features we look more into, but for now, you can know of the existence, but you would not necessarily need this right now. All right. Then we have stroke. Stroke is the outer boundary of the design. Let me change the color to something. So stroke is the outer boundary of the design. Let me put this here and give it a stroke. Let me give it light green. Change this to white. So you see this outer line of the design is what you call stroke. And here you can change the width of it, how thick you want it to be or how narrow you want it to be. And with that, you can tweak the position of it. So here you can see that the stroke is inside the boundary of this shape. It's inside the boundary of this shape. And that's because we selected inside. We can select center, and then we see that the stroke is centered on the boundary of the design. We can select outside, and you see that the stroke is positioned outside of the boundary of the design. Right. So this is what stroke is about. Then Figma has this effect. This one is also advanced. We'll look at that later once we start doing actual designs. Then there is export. So export is basically taking your design from here. After you have done your design, how to get it from Figma to wherever you are sharing it to. That is where export comes in. So here you can do PNG, JPEG, SVG, or PDF. So that four formats is what you can export in with Figma, or you can export out of with Figma. And then here you can multiply the size of the design. Probably I want this design, if I export it, I want it to be 3 times the size or 4 times the size. We can do that here as well. Here we can probably change some settings, not really necessary right now. Right. So we'll come back to these tools that we have here below and how to use them. So this first one we call the move tool with the shortcut V. And as the name suggests, it's to move things around in your design. If you want to move something around, use the move tool. Right. Then under the move tool, we have another tool called the hand tool. And the hand tool is to move across the design, to pan across the design. So probably your design is, your page is very large, like let's say this design page that we had here. I can use the hand tool to navigate around without moving anything else, right? You can move the hand tool. And the shortcut for this, if you are using a external mouse, is clicking or holding down on the middle mouse button. You hold down the middle mouse button and then you can pan across the design, right? And that's the hand tool under the move button. Then we have the scale tool with a key shortcut. And the scale tool is basically expanding the size of the design by locking the horizontal and the vertical sizes. So let's go back to the move tool. Let me show you something. If I do this and I'm trying to change the size, I can easily manipulate the width and the height separately. It's not stable, right? So I can easily change that, right? But with the scale tool shortcut key, it sizes everything proportionally. No matter how much I move the mouse pointer, it still scales the design on the same plane. It doesn't change, right? The height and width doesn't change proportionally. It still maintains its proportion. So that's the use of the scale tool. This will become very relevant once you start playing with images. So let's take an image here. For example, let's take this image of Yala here. You can start manipulating it like this. You want to change the size, but you are messing up the designs. You don't remember how it was before. So then now the image is inconsistent. But with the move or the scale tool, you can easily scale it without messing up uh, the proportions of the image, right? So that's that for the scale tool. Then the next tool we have is frame. The frame tool, shortcut F. The frame tool basically is the mother. Think of the frame tool as a foundation of your design. Anytime you create a design that you are going to export, think of frame tool as the foundation of it, right? I think Illustrator calls this artboards, same as Photoshop, artboards. But Figma, we call it frames. It's the foundation of the design. Why? Because it's like a container that contains all the design inside. So let's look at this image, right? If I take this image and I push it outside of this rectangle boundary, it moves outside of the boundary. When we select this and we export, let's say I've created this design, right? And I export it. Let's export it and see what happens. What happened? It exported a triangle separately and exported the images separately because there's nothing holding them together. And that's the job of the frame. The frame is to create a container where all your design sits in. So let's move this image from the rectangle to the frame. Once you bring it to the frame, you see that the edges of the frame light up. So you see the image was here Once you brought it in, the edges of the frame is blue. Let me show you again. Let me bring this out. Once you bring it in, you see the edges of the frame slightly lighter blue. You can see a subtle blue. Oh, what's happening with my laptop? Right, and immediately clips into the frame. So now this image is inside this frame. So the frame is like a container. So even though I'm pushing it outside, it's vanishing from, you can't see it here, but it's in the frame. So the frame would consider it's like a container for our designs. And when we export this frame, it exports everything inside of it. So to export this frame and we'll see what it looks like. Let me share my screen. Then. Alright, see when I exported a frame. When I exported a frame, the image is now inside a frame, unlike the rectangle where when I exported it, there was something else in there. So that's the utility of the frame in Figma. So whenever you're creating a design, first thing you do is to create a frame and all your design elements live in your frame, right? Then we have under frames, you can have sections, and section is something to help you organize your designs more properly. So let's say this is a group of designs you are doing and you want it to scatter on the page. You can create a section and probably rename this lesson on frames, right? And then anyone who comes into your design will say that, oh, okay, any design inside this section is about lessons on frames. So it's more like a organizational tool you can use. You can also export sections as well. Then we have shapes. So shapes, we have rectangle, line, arrow, ellipse, polygon, star, and image or video. We'll go through all of them differently. So we have rectangle, which obviously in the name, to create rectangle shapes that we'll be able to manipulate later. Then we have line, which is to create lines in your designs. And like I mentioned before, with the stroke, creating a line. Oh, we'll finish right now. Alright, fine. Let's finish quickly. Are you guys angry?
That's fine.
Alright. So we have the width, the stroke here, of which we can manipulate the width with this slider. For the line, we can also control what the ends of it look like. If you want curved edges, squared edges, narrow at the edge, this arrow at the edge, this arrow at the edge, this arrow at the this circle at the edge, or this diamond shape at the edge. We can easily do that. So we have the circle here, the line tool here. We have the arrow here, also similar to the uh, line tool. We can change the width as we want. There's also advanced uh, options on this, but we'll look at that later as well. We don't need to know that for now. Then we have the ellipse tool we can use to create circles, right? But for a perfect circle, you have to hold down the shift button and then you click, you hold down shift, then you click and drag. A click and drag gives you a perfect circle every single time, right? But once you let go of the shift button, then it becomes a very flexible ellipse shape you can manipulate however you want, right? So we have the ellipse tool here. We also have the polygon tool. Polygon tool is to create a rectangle with 3 or more sides. So the basic shape the polygon tool will give you is a rectangle. So for all the shapes that I am going through, if you want a perfect shape, you hold down shift and then you click and drag, and then it gives you the perfect form of that shape. So for the polygon tool, we have this rectangle, triangle, with this triangle here, and we can change the number of sides the triangle has. We can change 4 sides, we can give it 5 sides, 6 sides, 7 sides by dragging this dot on the edge here. You can give it as many sides as you want, but don't overdo this. As you overdo it, it becomes closer to a circle than, I think there's a limit to 50 or 60, and above that it reverts back to a triangle. So usually you don't go beyond, you don't do too much, you just keep it to a minimum, right? And then this button here, or this indicator here, handle here, is to curve the edges of the polygon. So let's say you want 8 sides, we can have that very nicely, and we can curve the edges as we want, right? So we have the polygon tool also available to you. Then we have the star tool. The star tool is almost like the polygon, but it's more versatile. You have inward points, right? Unlike the polygon tool where it's all outside, this one the points will be inside. You see what I'm talking about? So here with this point or this handle here, we change the number of points on our star. we can't create beyond 60. We can create 3 as the lowest. Let's create like 5 or 6. No. Yeah. And then this handle here is to determine the point for the, you see this polygon tool that we did before, it didn't have this handle, right? But with this we can control how much we want the points to be in. We can easily do that like this seamlessly. And then this, like in the other one, we can smoothen the edges of our designs as we want. Right. So we have the start tool here. Then we have the image. So the image, once you click it, it gives you a prompt to insert your image. So you can select whatever image you want to bring into Photoshop, into Figma. Let's say this image. Select it, and you see it comes as a point on the mouse cursor. So now we are going to draw or drag it across the screen, and then we have our image inserted for us here. Awesome. This options that comes when you select the image, we'll look at that later as well. For now, we can ignore it. Then here we have the pen tool, and this is the basics for almost every designer. Some people hate it, some people love it. For me, I love it very much. It helps you create custom shapes. So there are some shapes that are not available in the options that they are giving you. But with a pen tool, you can create any shape you want. You can create any shape you want, right? You create something haphazard, and we say this is our shape. This is a shape we want to use in our design, all right? But right now it has only stroke. It doesn't have a fill color. So here we can come here. Oh, where's my mouse cursor? We can come here. We give it a fill color. Change it to any color we want. Probably remove the stroke. We give it any color we want. Play around with it as we desire. Right. So the pen tool essentially a tool that gives you custom control over your tools or your shapes. And one interesting thing about the pen tool is every single object or every single shape that we've created from the shape menu can be manipulated with the pen tool. So we created this ellipse. We can double click it. Can double click and change the shape of it. Right. Can double click, change the shape of it however you want, however we desire. You are able to do that. All right. So that's the power of the pen tool. Let's see. Let's select the pen tool again. So the pen tool has two modes: curves and lines. Curves and lines. Lines is when you click and then probably you drag, you just click once and then you move your pointer to where you want your next point to be, and then you drop it. You move your point to where you want to be and you drop it. But then with the curves feature, once you click on it, you drag the pointer, you click and drag. You don't lift your hand from the page, from the cursor. You click and drag and then you can create a curve as you desire. So let's say we do this, right? And also once you've created a point, you can change the nature of it, whether you want it to be a curve or a straight line. You want these to be curves. You want all these points to be curves. And once you create a curve, you see that there's these extending points from the line, right? These points we call handles on the curves. And the handles are used to manipulate the curvature of that section. So if I take this handle and I change it, it's manipulating the curves of around this point, right? When we take this handle and we manipulate it, we manipulate the curves around this point. We take this point, we manipulate the curves around here. We take this point, we can also even extend them. We can extend them as we want, right? Depending on the shape we want to build. And we have that here as well. Brilliant. So that's the pen tool for you. And when you're in the pen tool mode or you are manipulating a shape, these other options open up to you. And this option here is to select a point, select point, select point, select point, select point, right? This option here is to select a group of points. So I don't want to go about clicking. I can just draw this shape around, and I've selected these 3 points. So now when I move them about, I'm moving those 3 points, right? The one I didn't select is static. I'm moving only the points I selected, right? So that's how you use this feature called the lasso tool. Then we have the shape builder. The shape builder is a tool you use to cut out shapes from other shapes. So now let's say this rectangle I created before. I want a hole in this rectangle that is in this shape, right? I can select both of them here, come, select both of them. Let me remove the stroke. I select both of them, right click, or right click, and then flatten. So flatten is when you want two shapes to become one. We flatten them. So now we flatten the this shape we created earlier with the star tool and the rectangle we created earlier. So now when we double click, it's all the same object, right? Then we come to the shape builder tool. The shape builder tool helps us to cut out images out of or shapes out of shapes. So you hold down Alt on your keyboard. Once you hold down Alt, you see that the cursor changes. In the normal mode, the cursor has a plus underneath it, but once you hold down the Alt, the color changes from blue in the background to red, and the cursor changes from plus to minus. Means now you are subtracting. If you do like this, you are adding, and we'll see the difference between adding and subtracting, right? So now let's subtract. So I hold down Alt on my um, keyboard, and then I'll go to the point I want to subtract from the design. Then I just click it. So now we have subtracted this shape from our rectangle, and now we have a design with a hole. We have a rectangle with a hole inside of it, right? As you can see, it has a hole inside of it. Now we would look at adding. So we take this, we duplicate it, restore the opacity. Uh, all right. So we take this, and then let's say we want to merge with this. We take it, and then we flatten it like we did earlier. Now it's the same object, right? Then we come to our shape builder tool. Now we want all this to be part of this shape. So we see still on the plus, we drag it over this. Now it's become 1. We drag it over this, it's become 1. We drag it over this, it become 1. Right? So now we've completely merged these two shapes together. Right? There's another way to do this in a reversible manner where you don't have to merge it like this, where it's permanent. When I do this, I can't go back unless I undo. So let's undo what we did real quick, and then we'll use another method to so another way to do this is using this shape tool called Boolean. Boolean. Boolean is it's a mathematical operation that is don't think about it as math, just think about it as operations you can do on two shapes, two or more shapes, that is. So have we have here, first option we have here is union, right? So you can find the Boolean options on the top here. In the drop down menu, you see Boolean, or you see this two rectangle icons here. The first one is union. Here we've merged them. Now they are acting like the same object. We didn't have to flatten them, we didn't have to use a shape builder tool, but they are still behaving like this. But the difference is here, we can double click and then we can change the properties of this shape. So even though it's merged, we can still edit them, right? Then we have, let's undo the merge. Then we have subtract, which subtracts the top object from the down object. And how do you know what is top object and what is down? You see that here with the layers. right? You see that here, maybe see that here with the layers. Here you can see the ellipse is on top and the rectangle is on the bottom. So it can be, let me change the color so here the ellipse is on the top, rectangle is on the bottom. Oh, the mouse is very fidgety today. So when we take the ellipse and we take it down, you see now it goes behind the rectangle here. So subtract essentially, or subtract is removing the top from the bottom. Subtract. See, so the top object has been subtracted from the bottom object, like we did with the middle shape here. And here, like the previous one, is still editable. We can come here and manipulate the shape as we want. Right. Then the next option is intersect, which is the parts that intersect are only the parts that would remain. So this part is the only part intersecting. This part is not intersecting with this part. So those parts will be taken off. And since this part of this object and this part of this object are intersecting here, it leaves out only that part. Then we have the exclude, which is the opposite of intersect. So the parts that intersect goes out, and the parts that don't intersect stay behind. Then the last one we have flatten, which is what we did earlier before in merging the objects as one same thing. So all this is to explain what the vectors or the pen tool is able to manipulate, right? So the pen tool is the basics for all the shapes in design that we have here in Figma. All the elements here are manipulatable by the pen tool. It helps you create your custom shapes and manipulate existing shapes. And also to mention, there's something called vector, and there's something called pixels. Okay, Gideon says, where can one set CMYK mode? Okay, so for Figma, it's all in RGB. There's no way to set for CMYK. You probably have to convert it after you've created your design. That's why for Figma, it's not 100% advisable to use it for print design where you need a CMYK or the print, or to do heavy print work or professional print work. You can design it in Figma and export it in a different software that converts it to CMYK for you, right? You can use a color converter. You can let your printer know that your design is in RGB, so they should convert it to CMYK. But essentially, Figma does only RGB. So RGB, like I was mentioning earlier, is a color profile. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that. You guys don't need that right now. So here, I was mentioning the difference between vector design and pixels, right? So vector is what you have here with the pen tool that I was demonstrating for you. So all this, what all this is mathematics that the computer has saved for you, right? All these positions are mathematical positions the computer has saved, right? No matter how you zoom, the lines are still crisp and detailed. This is the last point of zoom, right? No matter how you zoom, the images are still crisp and you can see the line that this is a distinct line, right? We take a look at a pixel based design or image and then we see the difference. So we take a pixel based image, for example, like this. As you zoom in, you see that everything becomes blurry and then you are left with boxes of color. What each box we have here is called pixels or a pixel. One box is called a pixel and a group of boxes are called pixels, right? And each pixel represents a color. You see, everyone is a different color. But then when you add a group of pixels together, you have an image, right? So what an image is basically tiny dots of images, tiny dots of color that have been put together to represent this, right? So this is what we call a pixel-based image. And what I showed you with the pen tool or the vector lines is what we call vector design. And the reason why there's a difference is because of the color information in this and the color information in this. This is saved as a mathematical formula in the computer. You won't be able to see that when the computer understands that, right? But in a pixel-based image, it's an approximation of reality. There's a lot. I think Richard mentioned that in when you guys were talking about the camera. So in one picture, the camera is giving you an approximation of reality. It's not capturing. There are thousands and millions of colors in a single image just with your eye, but your eye just gives you an approximation of the colors that you can see because it's too much information. You can't take everything. So this is just an approximation of the colors that exist in this image, right? So pixels essentially is the camera capturing a limited number of colors in the scene to represent your image. That's why when you're going to buy a phone, you ask how many megapixels that the camera have. It all indicates the quality or the number of pixels in a certain image. So you have 12 megapixels, 48 megapixels, however megapixels your camera has will determine how quality your image would be. So that's just how much information or how much color can the camera capture at once, right? So that's that for the difference between uh, pixels and vector images. We'll look at that in a practical sense once we start exploring design. Then we have the pencil tool. It's like the vector tool, but it's a more freehand tool where you can just draw anything, any shape as you want on the canvas. Right? It's not very precise like the pen tool. Then we have the text tool where you create your text. You can create text with the text tool. This is a text. Right? Then with the text tool, you have these options or these properties for the tool, for the text that you just created. Let me increase the size of it so it's more visible. So this is a text I have here. So here, I think this position and rotation things are standard for every object that you create. They would have these properties, but from here going, they are mostly different. Right? Here we have layout. So for the text layout, this one is for one line. So let's say you created a text box, then your design is somehow like this. No, come on. Yes, somehow like this. And you want to quickly change it without changing this. You can just click on this and then it takes you back to one line. Right. And then this is for paragraph text and this is for a limited or boxed text. So this one you choose it when you want the sentence to be confined in a specific text box size. Let's say like this. Here then you have this. Once I click this option, you see that the size of the box changes. Right? So this box is more like a container for the text to fill. Same with this as well. Same with this. Alright. This is the size of the box for the text. Then we have this option here to change the opacity of the text. How transparent or opaque you want the text to be like. Then here we have the typeface you want. So under typography, the first option here is the typeface you want to choose. There are many options you can choose from. And the reason why I let you guys install the other program after the Figma is because I want to be able to use fonts that are installed on your computer. So Figma has a limited amount of fonts, but if you want to use fonts that you yourself have installed, you can come to this option, fonts installed by you or typefaces installed by you. You can take popular fonts, Google fonts, variable fonts. Look at what these mean. Or you can just categorize all of them here. There's also a feature where if you know the name of the font, you can search it here. So let's say Clash Grotesque. Clash, no. Clash Grotesque. I can just pick it here. Instead of scrolling through that long list of text, if you know the name of the typeface, you can easily search it here and it would be available to you. And for each typeface, you can see that there's a preview of what the typeface looks like even before you hover over it. Right? So you can see what you want to easily help you make up your mind when you are selecting a typeface. It gives you a preview here before. I think that's the same typeface in your design, the first design you selected. And the same thing, Creeper. Right. So there are lots of typefaces to choose from. Then there's also the type weight. Like some typefaces come in just one weight, some come in 4, some come in 6, some come in more than 6, right? An example is SF Pro, which is the font that Apple uses. SF Pro, they have a lot of options for you to choose from, right? There's even italic versions you can choose from, right? So that's the weight, font weight. Then we have the font sizes here. And font sizes, you can also type in the font size you want. If it's not listed here, you can choose, easily type it out by your own here. And then this option here is line height. So if you have multiple text or multiple lines in your design, you can adjust that here with this feature. You can adjust that like that, or you can go back to auto. For this one, I wouldn't advise you to change it too much or manipulate it. Don't play around too much with it. Then we have the tracking. Like I showed you earlier when we spoke about typography, the tracking is the space between each text or each character in your text block. Right. So normal is 0%. Then here we have left alignment, align to center. So in the center of the box or to the right of the box. So this alignment is aligning it inside this box. Right. And then there is the position of the text. So you can either have it aligned to the top of the box, align it to the center of the box, or align it to the bottom of the box. So with this, we can make a lot of fun configurations with this alignment features here. And options, we have another option here. This one is giving you more control in the text. Here we have the alignment here with justify included. We have the underlined feature. Then we have the strike through. Then here we have all caps, first character, lowercase, first character caps, first character bigger than the rest, and then all caps, right? Then this, we wouldn't need to know this too much. Then bullet numbering, paragraph spacing, you wouldn't need this now. These options would go over them later. These are more advanced options for typography. So that's that for creating text or adding text to your design. Right. Then there's comment. Like I mentioned earlier in the beginning of Figma, where I mentioned you can add 2 or more people to your design board. if probably someone has created a design and you want to provide feedback on, you can use a comment tool. So probably someone has created a design and I want the person to change the font. I can highlight this part and then I leave my comment. Change this text or this typeface. Right, and then I can add the person here as well. Because I've not added anyone here, nothing is showing up. Right, but if I added people to this board, immediately I type the art, it gives me options for people to assign this to. So if I give you this comment, you would see the notification in your email. Right, you can add emojis, right, make it more fun as you want. Then you click up. So now the comment is up, and whoever visits this design would see that I've left a comment here that says change the typeface. And once whoever is assigned to this comment has finished the work, the person can just click mark as resolved. So now that means the comment has been dealt with and it's gone. And then now to the true power of Figma. Why Figma is very good. We'll look at this section called plugins, right? So here there's extra tools that we can use. There's a ton of tools here, some AI, but we'll look at the plugins. So plugins are third-party programs that people have done that you can easily use in your design. So we'll take a look at this plugin, right? This plugin is called 3D Wave. Make everything into a 3D wave. So since Figma has a limited set of functions or set of functionalities that you will find in probably Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever other tool you have, Figma's opened it that probably I want to be able to do something. Figma doesn't have it. I should be able to build a tool or a plugin that is useful to me. And there's tons of people who have done this already for you. So you can just come in here if Figma doesn't have that feature, and then you search it in your plugin window, right? So let's take this plugin for example. Let's select this image, and then, right, let's say we manipulate this a bit. We manipulate this a bit. Whatever you want to do, or whatever your intended purpose is, you do that. And then you bring it back to Figma, right? So plugins is a library of tools that people have already created that you can utilize in your design. Another very good one is isometric. You see a lot of designs or people using this isometric tool. So we'll take a look at what it looks like. It's basically to make your design look like it's in 3D space or it's in a physical space. right? So let's give this the same width. Right? And duplicate this. And bring this in. So now we have something that looks like a box, but essentially it's not a box. It's just shapes that we've manipulated to look like a box, right? It's something like this. It looks 3D, but it's not 3D, right? You can do this in Figma manually, but it's going to take a long time and a lot of precision. But with plugins, it helps make things like this fast for you, right? So probably you need something that, or you need like icons. Yes, very good. You are designing and you need icons. You don't have to go and download icons on the internet. Let's say I need uh, WhatsApp. I can just come here, pick WhatsApp, pick the WhatsApp logo. I just drag it here. I'm gone. It's also vector too. It's also vector based, right? So with vector, you can change the color, right? You can change the color however you want, right? So that's the versatility of Figma. You are able to utilize different tools that people have created for you in your uh, design. Example, I want a picture. I can come to this plugin called Unsplash. I don't have to go to the internet. I can just come here and search probably African, and then I get an image. Let's say I want this image for my flyer. I select it, it downloads, paste it in my design board, and then I can easily manipulate it. I can easily start to design on it quickly. So you'll be using a lot of plugins as you move forward or as you gain experience in design. If you know how to code, you can also create your own plugins for yourself, or you can publish it for everyone to be able to use. All right. So for now, this is the extent that we'll go into Figma, and I want you guys to practice with this. So I think I would drop some assignments for you in the page, and then you would look at. Let me just start. Let me show you something. So now I'm convinced that everyone is comfortable with Figma, with the interface of Figma. Okay, all right. So uh, I'm going to give you a simple design with text. So in this design, you're going to use all the things that I taught you today. to recreate this. So pay attention. Or nah, if I do it for people to see, it will be too easy. If I do it for you, it will be too easy. So I'll finish the design and I'll put it in a page, and I want you guys to recreate that design specifically. I want you to come close. Right? Alright. Okay. Well, today's call is very, very long. Very long. It's almost it's 4:30. Almost 5 hours. Well done, well done. You guys have done well. So now we are far ahead. So now you have the basics of design, principles of design. Once you start design, I don't see you guys breaking the rules. Right? Unless there's a particular message you want to show by breaking those rules. I don't want to see you making contrast mistakes. I want perfect hierarchy. I want to see proper color combinations, right? And your designs should be looking very good after here. All right. So I think that marks the end of today's lesson. And congratulations, you are now a junior or an entry-level graphics designer. You can add that to your CV. You can add that to your CV. All right. So guys, I think we'll end it here today and see you guys on Tuesday. Yep. I would share my assignments likely online. I'll share my assignment on the page for you guys to take a look. I think I would share about 3 designs, right? Share 3 designs for you guys to replicate, and we'll see how you guys do. All right.
But for more clarifications, I mean, they sound interesting. These samples that we can watch.
Um, yeah, so there are lots of tutorials. So I would share another tutorial on the interface again, so that if you probably miss something, you can navigate your way inside. So I'll share a video on. Let me take a note of that. All right, I've recorded this, so I should remember. So you can be more comfortable with the interface. Probably something I didn't explain, or they might explain it better in the YouTube video. Also, I try to upload this video on YouTube, and then you guys should have another recording you can look back to. All right.